This is Desi. Welcome to my dad's podcast. Why didn't the lion eat the circus clown? Because he tasted funny. Where did the cows go on Friday? To the movies.
I mean, honestly, we beforehand, everybody listening, before I cut out real quick, you were getting exactly what you paid.
Yeah, you'll be
Which
getting a
was
little more
nothing.
now. You'll be getting a little more now, but we are paying for it from this point forward. So let me go ahead and plug our Patreon again. Please come find our Patreon. Please find us. We'll put a
Yes,
link in the
please.
show notes. Pretty please. Throw us $3 a month. We would appreciate it.
Like I need like an infomercial, like help Doug's internet.
We can set it to what was it? Sarah McLachlan? Is that the music? Arms of the Angel?
Something like that. For just
show you
$3 a
sadly
month.
looking
You can
at your head down next to your router, all sad, frozen face on the screen.
like the most awkward frozen face too, just to show you how dire the situation is.
Oh, we need to find a friend who's a skilled video editor who can
$3 a
do
day.
that. Well, $3 a day is a bit more than we're asking for.
Oh, that's true. All right. Sorry. Let me rephrase. For just $3 a month, you can help Doug's internet see life again. Don't you want other people to live in a world of connectivity? Call now. Operators are standing by.
In a dark basement in a Cleveland house, there's a computer and a Zoom meeting, desperate for nourishing internet signal. And there's
I was going to say, who are you sending money to? Because I'm not in Cleveland.
Well, it's the closest city I can think of that people will recognize. I don't want to say Akron. Oh, Columbus. Yeah, okay. Problem is, I hear Columbus. I still think Columbus, Georgia. Like, I don't think of Ohio. I think of Georgia.
Oh, right. Right. That would make sense.
Actually, like 3 months of my life there.
That is a long time.
It is during boot camp. It's a very long 3 months.
Okay, stop it. Let's just get into the topics and get this over with.
All right, let's get into this. Doug brought a topic to the table tonight, and I've got a dad story for us, and we're going to go from there. I get to tell a story about my pagan heathen children, and Doug's got an actually interesting story, and hopefully we'll turn this episode around pretty quickly, so if we dabble into current events, it'll still be relevant by the time we publish.
I know, right? Hopefully. Side note, I love how the nerd in me said pagan and heathen. No, they are different. I'm interested to see both sides of this coin.
It's just more important to me to differentiate that those two things are not necessarily synonymous.
Pagan and exactly. Socially, maybe. So without further ado, let's get into the topic that I wanted to bring to the table because I thought it was a really good thought project.
Yeah, I'm in. I like it.
So here is, yes. So the title, if you will, of this topic, post on, I think, Reddit. I think I pulled it from one of those Reddit posters accounts on X on Twitter. It says, an average man gets stuck in a time loop, and the only way to escape is to beat Gary Kasparov at chess. How long until he gets out? It goes on to say, the average man has never played chess, but he knows all the rules. Each time he loses, the loop resets, and Gary will not remember any of the games, but the average man will. Cheating is utterly impossible, and average man has no access to outside information. He will not age or die, not go insane, and will play as many times as needed to win. How many times does he need to play to win and escape the time loop? Tom, you said your answer is not sexy.
My answer is not sexy.
Okay. So I don't know if we should put yours out there first.
No, let's do yours first because yours might be sexy. Let's capture interest while we have.
See,
should we start with some background? I assume everyone knows who Gary Kasparov is, right?
That's a good idea, though. We should probably still start with some background. Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't know. Like, I think who was it I was talking to the other day? They were like, "Do you know who? Crap, what's her name?"
Apparently, you didn't know who she
remember. No, and I still don't. She's some singer, like some pop singer that goes by a single name, like
Adele?
Hardy or no, No, that's more my age group.
Okay,
It
all
was
right.
one of the Halsey. That Halsey.
Nope, don't know her.
You don't know who that is either? Oh, thank
Nope,
God. Okay. Yeah,
never heard of
someone
her.
was like, oh, that's Halsey. And I was like, is this like an adjective that says something is really a lot like a hall? Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. That's a singer. I don't freaking know. But apparently, I was a loser for not knowing this person. So we should clarify. Gary Kasparov is probably, I mean, almost certainly right now the world's greatest chess player. I mean, you can argue some kind of thing, but he's at least in that conversation. He is, and Tom knows more about chess than I do, so he can correct me on any of this stuff too. But he's the guy that played the supercomputers over the multiple matches and multiple days, and you know he's what, like 4-2 or 3-2 or something, like in his matches against these supercomputers that they keep trying to, you know, to put up against him. So he's basically the best chess player in the world. That's the setup here.
Strong disagree. He used to be the best chess player in the world. He's been surpassed lately by a number of people, but he is still one of the all-time greats.
But by
He's an
Bobby
all-time
Fischer's
legend.
ghost.
Yeah, he's in that same class of Bobby Fischer, where when he was on top,
Right.
it was unmistakable and undoubtable he was on top. He was that guy that you knew. He was that person's chess name that you knew, even if you didn't know a single chess player. You knew Gary Kasparov's name. I had a little electronic chessboard when I was in the 7th grade that he like sponsored, bought it at Radio Shack, and you could play the computer by pushing down on the little magnetic button and moving your piece. It was great. If you remember the commercial from the Super Bowl, gosh, it would have been mid 90s, late 90s, where there's a chess master and all around him are chessboards. And he's walking from one table to the next, looks at it, moves like in seconds. And he's playing basically 30 games at a time. And he's giving each game like a moment's consideration, just making a move and beating people. And then he gets to a board and he stops and he looks at it. It's the first one that he has to pause at. And he stops and he looks and he considers it and he goes to move a piece and stops. Then he walks away and comes back and pulls over a chair and sits down with the chair and starts staring at the board deep in thought. And then it pans up and it's a little kid, probably a 12-year-old kid sitting on the other side with a big smile on his face. And it's a Yahoo commercial from back when Yahoo was a thing. And a Yahoo search bar pops up and it says, "How do you beat Gary Kasparov at chess?" And that was the commercial. And it was brilliant. It was fantastic. Gary Kasparov was like my chess hero when I was growing up. He was just phenomenal. Now chess is a whole different game, and it's changed. And now the computers are smashing chess players, both in chess and in Go. Go is now that's a hot topic for AI. We should have talked about that a little bit when we did the AI conversation. But AlphaGo has just been destroying world champions, and they didn't think that would happen for like 20 years. So yeah, anyway, Gary Kasparov, a fantastic chess player, world champion, amazing. He's a legend in chess. And good. Sorry, that's probably enough of a rundown of that. Doug and I both play chess. We've played a little bit against each other on basic chess apps. And if you ever want a game with one of us, actually reach out. I will play. I mean, we're gonna have good chess players who destroy me, but I'll play, and I'm a decent chess player. And I'm happy to play if anybody wants a game with a dad. And that's your catharsis and that's your happy place. Then I'll gladly give you a game with a chess.com app. Just reach out.
If you're worried about your skill level and you want to warm up, you should just play me first.
Agreed. Yep, agreed.
So when Tom's like, "Oh, we've played each other a little bit," no, it means we played each other 1.5 times and I got annihilated. I'm pretty sure that first game we played was the first game that I had played in a decade or something like that. I was the kid who was good in like grade school, did the tournaments, was middle of the road. So I was not shabby, but I was not like fantastic. And then I just dropped off. So I can't hold a candle to Tom's skill right now. So this was a good question for me, I think, because I kind of felt like it was kind of like me. I don't really play anymore. I know all the rules. I have some experience, but I don't know. I guess, is there really a sexy answer for this? I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to be really realistic here, because the question is, how many games before average man gets out? And I mean, it also says no access to outside information, which I think they threw in that rule for the Thought Project to say that he can't, well, for example, he can't Google how to beat Garry Kasparov at chess, what's a winning move from this board setup where he could just memorize and try to create that board setup so many times. So it's up to him to sort of teach himself chess to get his way out. So he can't even, go to those chess forums just to do practice, scenarios and stuff like that. Like he can't even do any practice. All of his chess exposure is against Garry Kasparov. I think some of it also depends a little bit on Gary, even though he doesn't remember each day. He's a human with free will. So maybe someday he toys with the guy a little bit or realizes that he's a newbie and starts giving him some advice and, hey, you should have looked at this or watched this next time, when we play or if we play again. Like there's probably some sort of mentoring or something like that going on in some form or another if you're trying to realistically tackle the project. But venture to guess that we're talking thousands of game runs, maybe even tens of thousands before he gets out. I'm just trying to very vaguely remember my own chess learning, and I'm pretty sure it took me 10 or 20 games before I even like knew how to properly castle with my rook. I would try to make a move without moving a piece, or I would have some sort of bad defense just trying to set it up, or I would move to it too quickly without paying attention to the rest of the board. So if we're talking that level with no experience whatsoever, I mean, he probably gets to 100 games just before he even starts to feel comfortable, especially if Gary is being a quick winner each of those early games. So I'm going to say 15,000.
Okay. 15,000.
I'm just going to ballpark it.
He never beats Garry Kasparov.
See, I'm going
to say never.
I thought you might say that. Here's why I think he beats him. Because if nothing else, assuming a new day that is a fresh new day each time, theoretically anything can happen. Scenario assumes that's not the same game every time. If it was literally the same game every time, Gary would be making the same opening moves and the same following moves and the same this and the same that. And then he could program his way out of that, potentially. This average man, if he could just learn each move as it was coming. But this is assuming Gary is being an unpredictable human, if you will, and playing how he sees fit with his free will each time. So to me, that also says Gary could have a bad day. Gary could make a mistake. He could have, an aneurysm. Something, and I guess you win if your opponent has an aneurysm mid-game. I don't know. So that's kind of my line of reasoning. And I feel like the guy does eventually get out, even if it ends up being way more than 15,000. He eventually gets out because nobody's perfect. Theoretically, any chess player going against Garry Kasparov has a non-zero percentage chance of winning.
Sure.
So the Mez eventually, even if it's 1 million renditions or 2 million or 5 million, they will get one win because it's non-zero. Mathematically, it has to be non-zero. So that's why I say he does eventually get out. The question is how many? I'm saying 15,000.
Okay.
Just to ballpark it. And that doesn't sound like a lot when you're thinking about a nobody versus a chess master, but 15,000 is a lot.
That is a
lot of games. So I feel like it's almost effectively the same experience-wise as 30,000. So that's why I'm just saying 15,000. I mean, how much more can you really learn at that point after you probably figure out everything you're going to learn and know about the way Gary plays after the first 2,000 or 3,000. And then it's just a question of maybe catching him a fast one at one point. And he's so good that it's going to take a while to do that.
And see, I don't think you ever get there. I really don't. I think that the whole premise of Garry Kasparov being where he is and what he is, if you're talking about an average person, Garry Kasparov is not an average person already. He's already just not that. And in order to beat him, you need a certain amount of skill. Chess is a skill game. It's not like playing poker. If you put me at a poker table with Daniel Negreanu and Phil Ivey and Phil Hellmuth and put me at a poker table with anybody, I'm going to win some hands and they're going to eventually win more. But I can beat a poker player. Like I can do that. And that makes sense to me because there's enough chance and there's enough variance there. Chess is a very low variance game. Unless you're playing someone with a very similar skill level, there's almost no variance. And Gary Kasparov sitting at a table against an average person, an average man. So we're talking average intellect, we're talking average capability, average learning ability. An average person will never be able to learn enough about chess to defeat someone like Gary Kasparov. There is a cap to your skill level. There just is. And Gary Kasparov is not an average person with an average person's skill cap. Gary Kasparov is in the top 1% in the world, probably the top 5% that have ever lived as far as playing chess and acumen and ability. The average person will just never reach that point where he can compete with the experience, the knowledge, the skill set. He'll just never get there. So that's why if this is at a random person, then maybe you get someone who's got the acumen and can get there. But as far as an average person goes, they'll never beat him. Not once ever.
Interesting take. I disagree with your analogy about it being a poker table because you're talking about individual hands. A chess game is not an individual move or set of moves. A chess game is an entire like campaign. So
I was talking like a little sit and go. Everyone's
okay. Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like going heads up against those guys with, enough chips that you have to play 50 or 100 hands kind of setup. But I don't know. In my mind, it's kind of okay. So you talk about ability, right? You talk about just pure ability, intellectually or otherwise, to handle the intricacies of a chess game. It's like, okay, me versus LeBron James one-on-one, first to 10 points or 10 baskets. There's an ability gap right there. I will never be as tall or as fast or as good of a shooter or anything as LeBron. But if I play him 15,000 times and I just start shooting from half court, there's going to be a game where I hit 8 out of 10 shots from half court in a row or something, or get him to jump once because I hit the first 7 and I go get a layup or something like that. That's kind of what I'm viewing here, that this average man, yes, intellect, yes, but he's only playing chess. He's in a time loop where he's playing Gary Kasparov, and the moment it ends, the time loop resets. So he's not even doing anything else with his brain power. This Gary Kasparov is presumably thinking about dinner and errands and crap like that while he's playing. This guy knows he's in a time loop because he remembers, and he's only doing, and it says he doesn't go insane, which means that he's not compromised in that way. So he keeps all of his mental faculties through the whole thing. So here's an example. Who has played Gary Kasparov the most at chess? Like just sat down across the table and played for him. Well, okay, but whoever has, let's say it's like his, it was his dad or something like that when he was growing up learning, or a cousin or something like that. Maybe they played every week for fun, life. Whoever's played against Gary Kasparov the most has played him, 100 times, maybe tops?
I'll bet there's people who played him a lot more than that.
Maybe,
but teachers and yeah.
But in this scenario, this guy gets the most exposure to one player. So if there are any weaknesses, and I think it's safe to say that he's not a perfect player. He's lost to computers, for example, just as for your layman's examination, he's not perfect. If you are against your same opponent every single day, you will get to know your opponent better than anyone else possible. So even if you're, quote, an average man, you're going to have above average information against your combatant more so than anybody else.
And I get that, and I agree. You're going to get that information. But the problem is, how good does that information actually serve you? How well does it serve you? Because
I don't know, Tom. You wanted me to have a sexy answer, so I'm trying. I'm trying here.
I appreciate it.
I was very ready to sit there and think maybe not. Maybe he never gets out.
Yeah,
but I think he's really sucky because he's not allowed to go insane either.
that is probably an awful part. No, the average person. How many chess moves do you think an average person could maintain in their head and remember? Just basically remember.
You don't need to maintain more than 10 or 20, though.
Oh, you certainly do. And even that, even just 10 or 20 moves. The average person, do you think that's something that they would get?
Well,
I would bet you the average person can't remember and maintain more than about 5 to 8 chess moves of a game. I'll bet you it's probably capped at 5 to 8.
I can't remember 3 sometimes. So I'm like, why the hell did I do this? Well, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes. If I'm here, I'm stuck against Gary. I'm probably on rendition 1272 right now. This is all of my energy. I probably might naturally start remembering I've been in this situation before. Last time I did what felt right, and it wasn't this. I know we're talking average, Tom. We're not talking about some super genius, but we're also not talking about a dummy. If we're gonna assume average, your average person remembers what they ate for breakfast. Your average person remembers what happened the last time they,
Sure.
I don't know. Like the average person will remember stuff like this. So I think there's enough variance. And again, my philosophical mind wants to just approach it purely logically. Anybody who plays Kasparov has a non-zero chance of winning. However small, it's non-zero.
Mm-hmm.
Average man, has a not a quote non-zero chance of understanding and remembering and logging key information. He's not, specifically someone who he can definitely handle the game. They make that clear. So eventually he gets out. My 15,000 honestly feels a little bit generous. It might be 50,000, but I don't think he's stuck forever, especially if we allow for a heart attack to take Gary mid game or something.
Well, if you're accounting for that sort of thing, then yes, eventually he's going to get a win because one day Gary's going to have a stroke, but although if it's a time loop and he's healthy enough to survive the first game, then theoretically he'd be healthy enough to survive it every day because it's always the same day. He's always in the same health. So
time loop only resets if he loses. So if he has a heart attack, he never loses. Is this a timed game?
I don't know.
They never say.
Yeah, they don't say.
That's key. If it's a timed game, then of course he gets out eventually because of what we're talking about.
Yeah, man. Well, no, I think then maybe not because then maybe the game never ends and he can't get out on a draw.
Well, yeah,
so that could be worse. Gary could be like, "Screw you! I'm taking a nap and I'm not coming back to make my move," and then you're stuck.
Well, or the other case is a timed game. Maybe that actually hurts the average player more, I think.
Oh yes,
because that presses you to make worse decisions. So the chess master is more likely to go in for quicker kills, and the average person doesn't have time to even soak it all in and learn it all, however long they need to.
And I think that's the crux of my point here. It's really that, and I'll make a better analogy too. But
Thank you for using the word crux. I love that word.
You're welcome. So I'm an above average chess player. I think my rating was, I don't know, 1500 or 1550 when I was playing for UConn.
What does that mean?
It means I'm not a master, but I was a good player. I played competitively.
Out of what time?
I think the first master's level, and I'll look it up, is like 1800. I think that's national master.
Oh.
Chess master.
And what, you get like 20 points for a win or 10 points for a win or something?
It depends on how good the person you beat is. Oh, no. So master starts at 2200. Class A starts at 1800. Yeah, so I was way off. But I think I was like a 1500, somewhere around there. Yeah, I was a good chess player. You can sit me down with a random person, an average random person.
You win 9 out of 10 times or something?
Yeah, I'm going to win. And now I'm not there anymore because I haven't played competitively in years. I haven't played much in years, but I used to be quite good. If you took me in my prime, and you sat me down across from Gary Kasparov and I played 10,000 games, I would not win one. Not even one. And I would probably have about 30 to 40 moves in my head from the previous game that I could line back up, and I could probably run back pretty clearly and feel confident that I had correct. But in a game that goes 60 or 70 moves deep with all the deviation, I would never be able to remember what went where past a move like 45 or 50. It's just too different. And if I can't do that as an above average chess player, and I'm confident saying I would not be able to do that, Gary Kasparov can go into a game 65, 70 moves deep and just always find a new branch to take you down, and simply always take you longer than you can retain memory of, because the average person is simply not going to remember that long. And that's why I think it would never
Gary
happen.
Doesn't remember, though. Gary does not remember.
He doesn't have to. He's got a lifetime of training, and this is already ingrained in him. This is already all you're trying to catch up. He's got a lifetime of playing at a higher level, and it's already there.
But you're talking about being 60 moves into a game, which, and then having the quote different branch, which means he can make a different move this time from this exact same move set leading up to this point. Right. But in this scenario, Gary doesn't remember that he used a different branch, so he may have a favorite branch that he always goes to each time. That's part of the predictability that man could theoretically pick up after a while.
Right, but what I'm saying is, even if you pick that up,
I did this last time, but he doesn't do that this time, so maybe his go-to quote deviation is always what the average man sees every time because that's his go-to.
But what you're doing is you're thinking of it as though you can just like a Turing machine force solve this thing and just eventually find a combination of moves that's impossible to defend. And that's not it.
I'm not saying. I'm saying find a combination of moves that will get Gary Kasparov, like your commercial. He always likes this is his favorite move with this setup. He will always make that favorite move in this scenario because he doesn't remember any of his previous games. He doesn't have the history of knowing what he did to you before. So he does get some predictability.
Sure, for maybe the first
theoretically
3 or 5 moves. Like maybe he's going to play the Queen's Pawn Gambit every single game. That doesn't. Maybe he's going to play the Sicilian Defense. Even if you memorize the 10 or 12 moves that are commonly associated as correct play with that line, he's going to know it too. He already knows it. What you're memorizing, he already knows, and he already knows levels above it. Once that game goes 30 or 40 moves deep, you're not going to be able to retain that pattern for 30 or 40 moves. He doesn't need to because he's able and capable of just finding the best move and of looking at it. And his decision tree, when he looks at it, is constantly evolving. He can always find the best move. You're relying on memorizing a certain number of moves or a certain correct number of moves to get by him. He doesn't even have to do that. He doesn't have to waste that brain power because he is simply going to look at it and find the best move. If this was something like checkers, and you've got a more, that's actually a bad analogy too. If you're talking about something with a very limited finite number of possible combinations, then sure, you could just Turg this thing and you could just find an unbeatable method. But here you can't because you have to actually defeat his thought process. Otherwise, people go into chess tournaments just memorizing moves from their opponents. It doesn't work that way. The better analogy here is not the one-on-one with LeBron, because I'm sorry, if you played 1,000 games against LeBron, you would never win one. Just like I would.
I didn't say I'd win 1,000.
I know. I'm just saying.
I'd win in 15,000.
I don't know if I'd win one in 15,000. And I play basketball.
Hey, I played lots of basketball. There were times when I could not miss, even like 5 feet beyond the 3-point line. So, you just need one of those days.
Once he touches the ball once, or he gets up close once, you never did that with a 7-foot guy in your face trying to block it, is my guess.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
It sucked, by the way. It was awful.
Well, there you go. That's what you can base this to. This is more like having a free throw competition with LeBron, but you're not like that. You could win, but when one person shoots,
make it take it.
When one person shoots, the other person is standing in front of him, blocking his free throw. That's what this is. There are certain capabilities and certain abilities you are simply not going to surpass, and you're never going to get past a certain plateau. And that other person is already leaps and bounds beyond that plateau. And that's what this situation is. The average person will simply never have the ability to beat Gary Kasparov, nor the ability to memorize 60 to 80 to a million moves in order to try to, force solve this thing. It would just never happen. Until Gary Kasparov took pity on him. Like if he caught Gary in a bad day, Gary's wife called and said, honey, come home right now. The kids are gone and we have the house to ourselves. Then maybe Gary tips over his king and you get a win. But that's what it would take. And yeah, he's an older guy now, so that's probably not happening like that.
So
his kids are already out of the house.
So he would get out.
No, because Gary's kids have been long out of the house, I'm sure.
You know why you would never win, Tom?
Because of my self-defeatist attitude.
Well, I was going to say because of your piss poor attitude.
There you go. See?
To try to segue it a little bit.
I like it. And the piss poor attitude.
For the piss poor attitude.
On that note, which I haven't said in a while.
Agree to disagree.
Yes, agree to disagree.
That should be one of the new t-shirts. It's just agree to disagree with our stupid avatars.
So it's funny you said piss poor attitude, Doug. I heard, maybe you knew the etymology of that phrase.
Yeah. So I stumbled across a whole list of some of those phrases and what they mean. And I just thought it was kind of fun because I had never known where piss poor came from. I always thought it was just something to do with, I don't know, you just go pee outside because you don't have an outhouse, or you're one of those people with only an outhouse or something like that. But apparently, once upon a time, I want to say it was Great Depression era. Could be wrong. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But the tanneries, local tanneries, used to dye, or color their various pelts and products with pee. And the particularly poor people one way to make money was they would all pee in a pot, and then at the end of the day, they would go sell the pot to the tannery. And that was what it meant to be piss poor, was that you were so poor that you needed to go sell your piss to the tannery every day. And
Wow.
for whatever reason, that stuck around. I thought that was kind of cool. Piggybacking off of that, have you ever heard the phrase, you're so poor you don't have a pot to piss in?
Well, I've heard it. I don't know the etymology. Sorry.
It's that exact same thing. Some families were so poor they literally did not have any pots in the household, so they could not collect their pee and sell it to the tannery. They were the poorest of the poor. So that's also where that phrase came from. Okay, I think people know about the married one. Why most people get married in June. Most people got married in June. I'm just going to rally them all off to
Yeah.
This is the thing. I'm one of those people that has searched out some of these things, so to me they're obvious. Most people back in the day took their yearly bath in May. So marriages often happened in June, late spring, early summer, because people still smelled all right in June after their yearly bath. Brides in particular liked to carry a large bouquet of flowers to help hide any additional stench. Have the flowers be massing ahead of time. So that's how the bouquet came about. You ever heard the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Yes, that one I know.
You do know that one? Yep. So for everyone else, usually you got one big tub of clean water for the day or the week or whatever for your bath when things were getting a little bit better than the annual bath. And just because, of, I don't know, sexism or something like that, usually the patriarch, the man of the house, got first dibs. The matriarch and the sons and the daughters, and usually last person to get a bath was the baby because, babies didn't matter, obviously. Right. The bathwater was usually so disgusting after, 4, 5, 6, 7 people had all been in the same basin that you literally could not see in the bottom of it. So people would warn to make sure you take the baby out. You don't leave the baby in the bathwater. Oh, let's see. There was one more. The raining cats and dogs. I think enough people have held that. Ooh, this one was fun. Sometimes people could obtain pork. It was very rare. It was like a delicacy once upon a time. When visitors came over, they would hang up the bacon to show off. And that's where the phrase, bring home the bacon, came from, because that was a sign of wealth, was that you could actually have bacon in the house. And when you were all done visiting, just to partake in your bacon, you would cut off a little piece and chew the fat with each other, just to enjoy it. So the phrase chew the fat for after dinner talk actually comes from that too.
I'm learning so much tonight.
I know, right? Okay, this was one I had known before. There was another one that I didn't know that was loosely related to this that I saw too. So local folks at one point in England started running out of places to bury people. Once upon a time, they would dig up the coffins, bring the bones to a bone house, and reuse the grave. And about 1 out of every 25 coffins, when they did this, they found scratch marks on the inside, meaning people had been buried alive. So they started tying little strings to the wrists of the corpses connected to a little bell above ground. So if the person woke up, they would start freaking out. The bell would ring. The graveyard worker would find it and help dig them up. And this is where the phrase dead ringer comes from.
That one I knew, but I knew that probably largely because of the Lore podcast, which is one of my all-time favorite podcasts. It was one of the first handful of episodes of that was exactly that situation. It was extremely well done. Anybody who wants to listen to a fun podcast and you're into that sort of darker.
That was the one that I knew too, but the one I didn't know was similarly older times. They did worry about burying people alive. So when someone fell sick during some of the local plagues and thought they would die, they actually would take these relatives and put them on the family dinner table in the house, just because there was no better place to put them, I think. Small houses and not a lot of furniture. And so they would all eat dinner there around the body, and they would be, quote, holding awake in case the person wakes up. That was where holding awake came from, was just keeping them up there for a week or something, just to make sure nothing else happened. Do you know the one about the 10-foot pole? I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
I do not.
That was a similar plague-related or sickness-related one. So a lot of local towns would have their mausoleums, if you will, like typical morgue, like lots of like holes that you would like put bodies or coffins into. And during some of the disease times, they would take the bodies, put them in the morgue slot, and because of all the deaths, they would sometimes have to push the bodies further back to make room for more in the same, like, I guess cadaverish places. And the holes for some reason were between 12 and 14 feet deep. The idea being that they could handle, 2 or 3 bodies, maybe, depending upon the size of the person. And the general convention was to have a 10-foot pole to help push some of those first bodies back to the back so they could make more room. So the idea of not touching something with a 10-foot pole because you didn't want to touch the previously diseased body is where that comes from. Thought you were safe because you were 10 feet away poking at it.
No, I did not know that, but that makes good sense.
I know. I like that one. My favorite of all time, old-timey phrase is falling off the wagon.
Oh, nope. Let's hear that one.
Did I freeze again?
Nope, I can hear you. Falling off the wagon.
Wagon. Well, as most of you probably know, falling off the wagon means that you started drinking again. In most cases, when you had previously said you were going to try to limit your alcohol intake. The reason for that phrase, because most people think, well, wouldn't you be on the alcohol wagon when you start drinking again? No. Most towns, once upon a time, had a water wagon that would roll through and refill homes and businesses with clean water every day, couple of days, kind of thing. And often a alcoholic town drunk, someone who was known for their alcoholic consumption, when they would want to announce to everybody that they were going to try to go clean, as part of their show, they would jump on the water wagon as a representation of, I'm only going to drink water from now on, because most of the time your choices were just water or alcohol. So when that person started drinking again, people would joke that they must have fallen off the water wagon.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah. The best part to me is how these things are at least 100, 150 years old, and they somehow still stick around and still have some sort of social meaning. That's my favorite part in all this.
I used to love random trivia like this. What was the bathroom reader? There was a great bathroom reader back when we still read books instead of playing with mobile cell phones.
Are we talking about Justin's podcast? Is that what we're...
No, it's not what we're talking about. Yes, little brother, that was a reference to you, to a comment you made about the episode we published this week. I can't remember what it was. Something's reader. My brother had a bunch of these books. And it's just like a book full of random facts and random trivia just to read. Just leave it in the John. And when you're sitting in the toilet, it's a book to read. Yeah, back before smartphones.
I think I have one of those. It was one of those like 1,000 facts about whatever for when you're in the John.
There were probably 1,000 variations of it.
Yeah.
And they probably all sold very, very well. All right, so little parenting loop. We'll segue into this without a segue because that's how we roll. I meant to tell this one last week, a little closer to Easter. And since it's important to do some parenting talk on this podcast, I'll go ahead and let everyone know how I set my daughter up for failure. My daughter asked me about a week before Easter, Daddy.
Sounds serious.
Why do we celebrate Easter? Mommy says that it's because of Jesus' resurrection. And I said, yeah, that's why we celebrate Easter. She says, well, Daddy, why do we have eggs and rabbits? I said, oh, well, before Christianity was the most popular religion in the world, there were lots of other religions. And in the springtime, they typically got together and had a holiday, and they celebrated new life and birth and fertility. And they celebrated a goddess named Eostra. And they did this. They associated a rabbit with her because rabbits have lots of babies. And so it's a sign of new life. And they would get together and they would paint eggs because that's a sign of fertility. And, they would celebrate and they'd be grateful for spring to come and the new life in the world. And my daughter took this and she absorbed it pretty well. And I was very clear. I said, well, when Christianity came through and they started converting people to their faith, it was very easy to get these people to understand their principles and their beliefs and to get them to come on board if they simply celebrated these holidays on the same days that these people were already celebrating their holidays. And my daughter took all this really well and really absorbed it, and then went to Sunday school the week before Easter.
Yay.
She told her entire class that Easter is a holiday celebrated because Christian people were trying to take over someone else's holiday, and that some Easter goddess, she got the name wrong, but some Easter goddess was affiliated with rabbits, and that's why we have an Easter bunny. And I mean, she wasn't wrong for the most part. She really wasn't wrong.
It actually sounds right so far.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the issue is.
Well, just the fact that when you say this to a Sunday school instructor in a Catholic Sunday school program,
oh my God,
they're a little bit less interested in the historical, the etymology.
I was going to say, please say less forgiving.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, they weren't so happy that she was telling all the kids that, we celebrate Easter because they were taking over someone's holiday. That's not the lesson they're trying to teach in Sunday school. So, especially at that age. So, my daughter was, spreading the good word to her classmates. That was my fault, but I'm also happy I educated her.
No, this is not a parenting fail.
No.
I will admonish you later for bringing a non-parenting fail to this podcast, for shame on you.
Fair.
But I'm with your daughter on this one and you on this one. This is perhaps one of my little beefs with my own faith, I suppose you could call it, because I do think there are lots of, Catholics, but Christians in general, who are like that. They do not actually take kindly to, I don't want to say a challenge, but like a crass interpretation of something, when really the whole point of sorry for the fancy lingo, but the whole point of a proselytizing religion is to take the curious people, to take the questioning people and take that energy and say, here's why this is the case. Here's why we do things this way. Here's what this should mean for you. A good Sunday school teacher, and I know there's lots of Sunday schools, and therefore there are lots of not so good Sunday school teachers. First of all, they should be at least halfway aware of this, since, I feel like you should have at least some basic background knowledge of holidays that your religion celebrates. They should have taken this and kind of done the correction that you said, which was Jesus rising is new life by the Christian definition, Catholic definition, for lots of pagan / heathen cultures. The best. Yes, you were right. Two different things. We talked about it. There are two different things. What better way to say, hey, this is what we mean by this. This is what we think our guy, if you will, our team was doing with this event, to say it was this. Why can't we use some symbols to help map it over? And why can't this stuff carry on? If you ever get bored sometime, look up the history of Christmas and Santa Claus.
Yeah.
At one point, Santa is some sort of like Norse-ish god who's riding some like 8-legged reindeer and like all this stuff, like it all comes from everywhere. So I'm just saying, I'm with your daughter on this one. They should have taken this and said, yes, people did believe in this kind of new life concept, and Christianity was trying to bring them in and say, hey, you're almost there.
And I should probably clarify, they didn't scold her for it or anything. Like, it wasn't anything that. So I know, but I don't want to paint them out as evil, evil devils.
I guarantee you they didn't know how to handle it, though.
Yes, I'm 100% confident that they did not know how to handle this. And honestly, I was proud of that. I was proud of how much she retained. My daughter's got an amazing memory. And I was just really, I only told her once. Like, it was an in passing conversation. We were in the car and she asked me, and I told her about it while we were driving somewhere. And I was surprised that 5 days later, she remembered enough to recount it that well. And I actually asked her when she told me what happened. I said, can you tell me the way you told your class? Can you remember and tell me the way you told them? Because I want to know how much she actually said. And I expected it was going to be some extremely watered down, diluted version. She was on point. Aside from getting Eostra's name wrong, like, she was on point. And I was really impressed. I'm really impressed. To your Santa Claus point, the Italian version of Santa Claus, the original one, not whatever's over there now, that one was my favorite. ever since like Krampus became popular, like there's all these different counterculture Santas, and most Santa Clauses in most ancient cultures, especially European, were like dualic in nature. It wasn't just one. You had a good Santa Claus rewarding the good children and a bad Santa Claus punishing the bad ones. And in Italy, Santa Claus would come and litter candy all over the floor, and the bad children would come out to get candy they shouldn't have, and he would beat them stupid and stuff them in a sack and take them outside to torture them and leave them in the snow to teach them a lesson. Santa's come a long way.
No. Sounds like a little bit too much pussyfooting around.
All right. Any updates we should get to today? I don't have any other updates. I've got nothing.
No,
new
not
for
really.
Today, but I know we're trying to keep it concise.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment about your daughter clearly being like a, 1200-ish level or something like that. Just like the 20 moves kind of person, it sounds like.
She has such a memory that I would not doubt, like if she applied herself to chess, that she would be that one. My son is super good at chess. He's in kindergarten and he's teaching people to play chess, and he's super smart. And both of my kids have just ridiculous intellects. My son was reading books before he started kindergarten. Like they're just stupid smart, my kids. They get it from their mom. And I wouldn't doubt that my daughter would be able to just memorize a ridiculous number of moves, every basic chess opening and most of the advanced. She could probably memorize the whole line without having a problem now. I really do. But she's not interested in chess. We play. It's fun. We play for fun, but she doesn't care about being good at it. She likes to draw and she likes to color and she likes to, watch videos and play Roblox. And that's what she likes. She's an incredible artist. That's where I think if she continues to take joy in that, she's got a future in that professionally. She's just unreal. No one in my family that I know has that kind of skill, except my aunt. But neither my wife nor I have any sort of artistic skill. And my daughter can look at a thing one time and then just draw a picture that is mind-blowingly accurate. And she's 8 years old. We'll see. But one day my son will be a better chess player than me, I think. I'm pretty confident that probably by middle school or high school, if he's really applying and he really wants to go at it and he wants to beat me, he'll be able to beat me by then.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I was that kid in my middle and high school chess club that didn't have anybody to beat him. I was beating the teachers that were running the chess club. And, it was obviously fun because I like to win and I like to play. But then I went off to the Army and continued to just beat everybody until I met a kid. I shouldn't say kid because I was 20 at the time and he was probably 19. His name was Rivera. And he was a Filipino kid who was with us. And everybody was like, you know what, Gamash, you should play him. He's really good too. And I sat down and he whooped my butt. And it turns out this young guy was a real studied chess player. And we battled. And I think I was the only person that beat him the whole time we were in Iraq. But I probably beat him 3 games out of 10. I mean, he was really good. And he probably was taking it easy on me at the time. So I still walked out of that thinking I was a pretty good chess player. And went to Germany. And in Germany, there was a German chess club that played, and I showed up there, and they were better than me, but it wasn't a huge difference. But we played and had fun. That was where I got to learn a little bit of German. And I came back to the States and went to UConn and was like, yeah, I am King Kong. Let's get on this chess team and just start smashing college players. And wow, did I get my butt whooped. I mean, it was embarrassing. I felt like all those people I was playing in middle school just didn't have a chance. And there was a day where I don't know whose kid he was. He wasn't the organizers, but there was someone there who was an international master, and this was his kid. And I think the kid was 11 years old. And we sat down and he shook my hand and started talking to me. And it was the first day of like a house-friendly tournament. And I'm talking to this kid, and he very articulate, very smart young man, but he was 11-ish, 12-ish. I really was sitting there going, all right, well, how did I draw this kid in the first round? And so we're chatting it up, and he was, interested that I was an Army veteran. He goes, oh, you were in the Army? Yeah. He's like, were you in Iraq? I was like, yeah, I just got back a couple of years ago, just got out of the Army earlier this year. He's like, oh, all right, I'm going to take it easy on you then. I'm going to play the crazy hippopotamus. The hell is the crazy hippopotamus? Like,
it's something he made up 2 weeks ago, and he's going to test it out on you. That was what I had
assumed, but it turns out it's a real opening, and it literally starts. So you're probably not an algebraic guy. So we'll instead of going algebraic, it starts with moving your rook pawn 1 square forward, 1 rank forward. That's how this opening starts. And that's the opening. Like, you do nothing to gain the center of the board. You do nothing to develop any pieces. All you're doing is blocking a spot your knight could go to. And
that means your bishop next or something, or no?
No. It's yeah, I think it's the pawn on the other side.
It's nothing.
You can't move the bishop yet.
I was going to say it's nothing. You're right. You only have knight move next, or your 1 rook move.
Right. Yeah, it's a nothing burger of an opening. And I had to go back after he beat me soundly with this.
You know what, though? For mind games, it's perfect. You sit there and you're like, oh my God, what is he doing? It just gets in your head.
You think it matters. It doesn't matter. It's not that I look at it and go, oh man, he's doing crazy stuff. I look at it and go,
He
all
is,
right, so
though.
he's
It's the
not
crazy
preventing me
hippo.
from doing this.
It's the crazy hippo. See, you got cocky.
Yeah, he whooped me so bad. We finished that game so fast. I think we were the first or second game done. And he looked up at me with these cute little innocent childish eyes and total humility, total sweet kid. He looked up at me and goes, we've got time to play again if you want to try again for fun. I was like, yes, I do. We played like 4 or 5 games and he just obliterated me, but oh, it was fun.
Yeah. It is neat. It is a different level with people like that. I mean, similar thing. I mean, by the time I was in 8th grade, I was beating anyone else in the school. Luckily, our teacher was some version of like actual chess coach or something like that for tournament players. So
Nice.
I did have a guy that I couldn't beat when I was, learning how to play. So that did help me a lot. But yeah, I was nowhere near any level like that. But when I got to college, there was a kid who was a year behind me, I think, when we were going through. And as usual, you make a claim, people look you up, verify it. He was the 8th best chess player in Ohio at some point. And he did stuff like have his back to the chessboard, never see it the whole game. Someone else moves his pieces for him. He plays the whole game by just calling out moves and never gets to actually physically look at anything, and destroys people. Play 2 games at once without looking at either board, destroys people. And he was like humble about it, but and used to say that he used to say like, yeah, I've been trying to break into the top 5. We're like, fuck you, dude. It's just a different level with people like that. It's cool. Yeah, it's real cool. He was a great guy too. Like, love the kid to death. But it was just neat to see that skill set.
Yeah. I've never met a good chess player that was an unpleasant or a bad person. I'm sure they exist, but I haven't met them yet. I've never met someone who was a truly good player that was also a scumbag. I haven't.
Yeah, chess has always fascinated me though. Like how now we're finally getting computers to consistently beat every person, which logically, since I'm all about that, should have been happening sooner in my mind. Like when you build a supercomputer that sometimes takes 3 days to decide its move, I feel like that should have beaten people sooner. But when you have chess masters that are able to go against a computer specifically designed for that takes multiple days to run all the probabilities and make its move. I mean, for a while, I was almost wondering if chess was so complex that it reaches that sort of like Ghost in the Machine level of game where, I mean, as you approach infinite possibilities, maybe realistically it becomes infinite and you can no longer just play the pure probabilities anymore. There should be a finite number, no matter how big it is, of chess games.
Yeah.
Because it's a limited board with limited pieces, limited moves and all that. It should be. But like you said, you get 20 or 30 moves in, no one might have even taken a piece yet when you're 20 or 30 moves in. So the level of complexity of this game is astronomical. Here's an idea. Here's what I think. This is just a fun thought project. If you took every single person in the whole world right now, all 7 billion or whatever it is, 8 billion of us, and gave all of them a deck of cards, and once per minute since the beginning of time as we know it, since the Big Bang, every single one of us shuffled those cards and dealt them all out, 1 through 52, all in a row, once per minute. So again, sorry, let me slow down again. 7 or 8 billion people, every single minute since the dawn of time as we know it, we're dealing out all 52 cards of a deck. Then right now, today, odds are you would not have 2 of the same deals up to this point in time. That sounds ludicrous, but it's because of how the math works out. Even if you get the first 45 cards the same as a previous run, you still have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 possibilities. I think chess might be more complex than that because of all the different moves between the knights and the bishops and the rooks and converting any pawns to a different piece.
Well, right. Well, chess, you technically have an infinite number of moves. Like what you're doing with the deck of cards. That I love that example you gave, because someone gave that to me a while back, and I was like, "There's no as possible." Yeah, you'll play Poker Hill if you never see the same shuffle twice, and I didn't believe it. And they showed me the same thing you just talked about, and it was astronomical. I was like, "Oh wow, you're right." But with chess, I can move a bishop out and then move him back. Like you can move the same piece out and back over and over and over again. So there's actually,
or you can move it 4 pieces out and then 3 spaces back. And yeah, I mean,
right.
it's not infinite, but it's got to be even more ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kasparov with Deep Blue, I looked it up just to make sure I was right.
I think it's real credit to whatever the human brain is, because the computer that he's playing against is sitting there making all these probabilities and possibilities. But if you took your bishop and moved it back a space or 2 spaces or whatever back to where it came from, the human brain can immediately look at that and say, that makes no sense. That doesn't benefit my opponent at all. That's completely off the table. So the human brain, a well-trained human brain, can actually very quickly knock off lots of the potential moves. And I think that's why humans did so well against computers.
Maybe, but that's
for so long, because they can actually weight the probabilities in some ways much faster than computers can.
Maybe, but I think like in Kasparov when he played Deep Blue,
maybe just agree for once.
No, I can't, because it's very specific to the example and the question we had. When Kasparov lost,
you're specific to this example.
Yes, when Kasparov lost the second match to Deep Blue, he resigned. And there was a lot of people arguing about, should he resign? He possibly could have won something. And the big theory after what he was talking about was that he was so unnerved by a move that Deep Blue made earlier in the match. It just didn't seem logical to him. It didn't make sense. It unnerved him so much. It was so illogical that it threw him off and he couldn't figure it out. And that was what ultimately led to him resigning a position he didn't necessarily have to resign in. So a move like that, you don't necessarily just write it off. It can throw you off in chess, and it can unnerve you, and it can change the way you approach the game and screw you up going forward. So I just, since we had talked about Kasparov and Deep Blue earlier, I just felt like an extremely relevant example, since that's exactly why people speculated he forfeited or resigned the last game against Deep Blue. And I did look it up because I wasn't sure. He won the first match against Deep Blue, and then he lost the second match.
You know who's also likely to make moves like that are illogical against Garry Kasparov?
Me?
An average person.
I don't think that's the case, because when an average person does something like that, Garry Kasparov gets to take advantage of them.
Does Gary know that they're an average person? We never talked about this when we were actually in it, but that's actually not stated.
It's not, but I'm going to assume that it's a lot like any skilled game, in that if someone is skilled or not very quickly.
You feel them out as you go.
Yeah. Like at a poker table, you can tell if someone's a good poker player or not, and a regular poker player, before they even play a hand, just by the way they handle their cards and they handle their chips and the way they're looking or not looking. You can tell a lot there. In chess, it's a very similar thing. You can tell by the way their first couple of moves, how practiced the hands are, what they're doing. You can tell if they're average or below average.
So our apologies to all of our listeners. This turned out to be a much better discussion. We didn't even do a good job the first time around, because average person with 10,000 plays under his belt against you when you don't know it. Those first couple of moves might look like someone who's actually very adept at the game, whether or not he actually is.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, let's not get into that anymore. You want to do dad jokes?
Yeah, let's do dad jokes.
Okay. You want to go first?
You got any good ones tonight?
Yes, I do. It only took me however many episodes, 20-some episodes, for you to shame me and make them themed, so I'll give you that hint.
So I've got one chess joke, but it's not necessarily a good one. And it's a little bit dirty.
I pulled 2 chess jokes.
I love it. I'm so glad that you pulled jokes. Like, that makes me happy.
Good.
Why are chess players so good in bed?
Because they can rook you all night?
No, because they can always find 8 G spots for their queen.
Damn it. Now I have to change the order I'm going to tell my jokes in.
Oh, no. All right.
What is the favorite chess move of ants with bladder problems?
Ants with bladder problems?
Their favorite chess move.
It's going to be an en passant. joke.
Kind of.
Something about en
Yes.
passant, but with weird words.
You might get this one, man. You freak me out
Going on
sometimes.
passant? Going on passant? It's an en passant
Yeah,
joke.
you're
but
right. On pissant.
Okay, there we go. All right.
Yeah. All right, good.
Good with that one.
Yeah.
All right, give me the next one.
All right, fine. Why did the chess master throw up on the boat?
Why did he throw up on the boat?
You heard me.
Something C6.
God, I hate you.
I'm sorry.
He got C6.
There you go.
You know what? I don't want to do this podcast anymore. I can't even bring good jokes in.
What's the most dangerous chair on a chessboard? This is
The
what
most
you'll get.
dangerous square on a chessboard?
Yeah, you'll get this one.
I don't know if I will, though.
See, I'm digging into like the old ones we told back in like middle school now. You'll get some of these.
No, I don't understand this one. I mean, I assume it's a square like number, like, you know, like beware or B4 or something like that, but I'm not.
C4.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because you had the other joke that if A is for whatever and B is for whatever, what is C4? Yeah. All right.
All right.
Yeah,
What is the fastest square on a chessboard?
I mean, it's just a question of time at this point. It's got to run through them all right in my head.
You should have gotten there already.
F1.
There you go.
Yes.
And he's back on the cast. We got him. We reeled him right back in.
But see, here's the problem, though, is you're probably sitting there thinking that I'm saying A1, B1, D1.
No, you're going A1, A2, A3, A4, A5.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're the more chessy of the two of us. So you're thinking about an actual board layout because it's A through whatever it is, F, or A through G, excuse me. So you're thinking about it A through G and then 1 through 8. And I'm thinking about it as A, 1 through 8, B, 1 through 8. Because of how my brain usually works and not being chess oriented. All right, I think we need to get out of here, especially for our new. So I'm sorry, dads. I have failed you all with your free editing on your free software in my free, not so spare time with 3 children and a side business and a regular day job and another regular side-ish day job. I just can't keep up. So we have someone else who's, as Tom said, much professional doing this. And so we need to be nice to this person so they don't leave us.
No, we need to be nice so that it's not any more expensive to pay them per episode. That's what this is.
I mean, I feel like I basically said that.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite what you said.
No, but I mean, people stick around for money. What was the thing I said in an earlier episode? You'd be surprised what people will do for $20. So on Tom's happy note, review us, please. Share us, please. Check out our Patreon. It is for sure up and running. We're going to keep trying to add some stuff there. Not just exclusive content. We want to make sure we have, that fancy special someone t-shirt or other exclusive item or discounts or whatever else that we can net you guys. And we'll just keep trying to build that sucker up. So again, cup of coffee every month. Help us keep the lights on and keep it rolling. We want to make sure we're doing good by you. So check it out. Link in the show notes.
Links in the show notes. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.